If any family played a pivotal role in shaping Italy's renowned art and architecture, it would undoubtedly be the Medici family. Renowned as patrons of celebrated artists and architects such as Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, this family etched its legacy into the very soul of Florence. Through their immense wealth, they fueled the fires of the Renaissance era. The Medici family, also recognized as the House of Medici, emerged as a prominent force in Florence, Italy during the 13th century, primarily due to their remarkable success in commerce and banking. Their ascent to prominence can be traced back to 1434, when Cosimo de' Medici, often referred to as Cosimo the Elder, assumed power. It was under the Medici family's patronage of the arts and humanities that Florence blossomed into the epicenter of the Renaissance, a period marked by Europe's growth in science, art, and culture. The Medicis also left an enduring mark by producing 4 popes: Leo X, Clement VII, Pius IV, and Leo VI, and their bloodline mingled with the royal families of many European nations. The Medici legacy traces its origin to the 12th century, when members of the family relocated from the Tuscan village of Cafaggiolo to Florence. Through their involvement in commerce and banking, the Medicis gradually ascended to become one of Florence's most influential families. Their path to power, rooted in wealth and connections rather than conventional family lineage or military achievements, enabled them to wield influence by exerting control over those already in positions of authority. As their wealth and sway increased, so did their dominance over Florence. The Medici family was warmly embraced by the citizens of Florence for their generosity and support of the less privileged. Their ascent to power was closely tied to their affiliations with the papacy. Like many other families, the Medicis initially engaged in trade, though by the 13th century, banking had also become a significant pursuit. Throughout the 13th century, Siena was the leading banking hub in Italy. However, in 1298, one of Europe's prominent banking families, the Bonsignoris, faced bankruptcy, resulting in Siena's decline as the Italian banking center. The House of Albizzi was the dominant family in Florence until the late 14th century. In 1293, the Ordinances of Justice were introduced, effectively serving as the constitution of the Republic of Florence during the Italian Renaissance. The city's opulent palaces found themselves surrounded by townhouses constructed by the flourishing merchant class. The primary rivals of the Albizzi family were the Medicis, initially led by Giovanni de' Medici, later succeeded by his son Cosimo di Giovanni de' Medici, and subsequently his great-grandson Lorenzo de' Medici. The Medici family exerted control over the Medici Bank, which was the largest bank in Europe at the time, and an array of other enterprises both in Florence and beyond. In 1433, the Albizzi family managed to secure the exile of Cosimo. Nonetheless, the following year, a Medici-friendly Signoria, which is a civic government, came into power, headed by figures like Tommaso Soderini, Odo Altoviti, and Luca Pitti, and Cosimo returned to Florence. This marked the ascendancy of the Medici family as the foremost family in the city, a position they maintained for the next 3 centuries. While Florence remained a republic until 1537, the mechanisms of republican governance were effectively under the control of the Medici and their associates, with intermittent exceptions in the years following 1494 and 1527. Cosimo and Lorenzo, although barely holding official positions, were undisputed leaders. The Medici family held strong ties with most other influential families of the time through strategic marriages, business collaborations, or employment relationships, which gave them a central role within the social network. They served as the conduit through which various families accessed other elite circles, akin to how banking relationships functioned. Notable examples of such families include the Bardi, Altoviti, Ridolfi, Cavalcanti, and the Tornabuoni. This interconnectedness has been proposed as a factor contributing to the Medici family's ascent. Over time, the Medici Bank emerged as the primary financial institution for the papacy. With a stable source of capital, the Medici family diversified into new trade ventures such as the spice, jewelry, silk, and fruit trades. Their growing financial clout also opened doors to fresh opportunities in municipal governance. During the early 14th century, certain members of the family gained prominence in the wool trade, particularly with France and Spain. Although a few Medici individuals held positions in the city's governing bodies, they were still relatively less conspicuous compared to prominent families like the Albizzi or the Strozzi. Notably, Salvestro de' Medici served as the spokesperson of the Woolmakers' Guild during the Ciompi Revolt in 1378 to 1382, and in 1396, Antonia de' Medici faced exile from Florence due to involvement in a conspiracy. Involvement in another plot in 1400 led to a ban on all branches of the Medici family from Florentine politics for 2 decades, except for a select few. During the early 15th century, the Medici family made significant strides in ascending to the upper echelons of Florentine government. By the mid-century, they began to surpass their primary political rivals, the Albizzi, and under the leadership of Cosimo de' Medici, solidified their dominance. Yet, Cosimo's path to control was not without obstacles. His chief adversary, Rinaldo degli Albizzi, strategically filled one council with his supporters in an attempt to cast blame on Cosimo for the costly war with the city of Lucca. While Rinaldo's allies failed to secure Cosimo's execution, they did manage to exile him to Venice in 1433. This victory, however, proved to be hollow, allowing Cosimo, the foremost Medici, to return to Florence strengthened. Leveraging his family's bank, his political allies, and his favorable standing with the people, Cosimo made a triumphant return just 1 year later, effectively crushing the Albizzi family's aspirations of dominance. As the foremost citizen of Florence, Cosimo de' Medici adeptly advanced his family's interest while faithfully serving his city. For 3 decades, he exhibited astute governance, employing a shrewd political strategy that involved supporting projects through his wealth and acting via his backers. This approach downplayed his personal prominence and left little room for his rivals to undermine him. Nevertheless, Cosimo skillfully capitalized on events that would enhance his popularity. His association with the Peace of Lodi in 1454, a pivotal treaty between Venice and Milan that brought stability to the region, is a testament to his political acumen. Lorenzo de' Medici, renowned as Lorenzo the Magnificent, held sway over Florence from 1469 to 1492, proving himself as adept an administrator as his grandfather Cosimo. His mode of governance closely mirrored that of Cosimo. Like his forebear, Lorenzo adroitly collaborated with the civic council. His marriage to the esteemed and well-established noble Orsini family fortified the Medici wealth and political influence with aristocratic lineage. Lorenzo's external relationships were equally vital, as his diplomatic skills secured Florence against adversaries, fostering new alliances and bolstered his own position. His proficiency as a diplomat and politician also allowed him to cultivate influence with the papacy, which had relied on the Medici Bank for many years. Giovanni, Lorenzo's son, rose to become a cardinal and later ascended to the papal throne as Pope Leo X. Michelangelo, who had previously found a patron in Lorenzo, continued his artistic endeavors under the patronage of Pope Leo X, beginning work on the renowned Medici Chapel. While renowned for their remarkable ascent in Florentine politics, the Medici family is equally celebrated for their role as patron of the arts. Patron of the artists and intellectuals was not just a common customary practice, but a crucial one, as it provided a means of livelihood for artists who, without patrons, would struggle to sustain themselves. Patronage was not solely beneficial for the artists, it also elevated the prestige of the patrons. Works of art, particularly those displayed publicly, brought fame to both the artist and the patron. The Medicis, with their wealth, supported some of the most brilliant luminaries of Renaissance art. Notably, they backed Donatello, renowned for his bronze statue of David, and Michelangelo, who collaborated with the Medici for a significant part of his career. Michelangelo had even attended an art academy established by Lorenzo within the Medici gardens near the Piazza San Marco. Both Cosimo and Lorenzo Medici extended their patronage to artists and humanist scholars. Cosimo generously supported Donatello and Michelozzo de Bartolomeo, the architect behind the Palazzo Medici Riccardi, one of the Medici palaces. Lorenzo, in addition to his support for various artists, was a proficient poet and a sponsor of cultural endeavors. Lorenzo played a crucial role in providing Michelangelo access to classical statuary in his garden. The Medici family's patronage also extended to humanists, as both Cosimo and Lorenzo aided scholars in locating and acquiring ancient and medieval manuscripts. Their support led to the establishment of a Platonic school under Marsilio Ficino, the development of a library at the San Marco monastery, and manuscript production. The contributions of the Medici family to the culture and history of the Renaissance are undeniable. While Florence housed numerous Renaissance luminaries, including Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Niccolò Machiavelli, the city was under the administration of the Medici family. Despite Florence's republican status, the Medici wielded such power that they effectively governed the city and even represented it diplomatically. The family's remarkable journey from humble origins to becoming a prominent European house exemplifies key aspects of the Renaissance. Renaissance thinkers believed in the potential of humans to transform their circumstances and enhance their lives through education and diligence. Evident in Renaissance art and literature is the notion that educated, worldly individuals were better equipped to serve and enhance society. The Medici family harnessed their talents not only to amass power and prestige for themselves, but also to leverage their influence for the betterment of those under their care. They sponsored cultural initiatives and upheld Florence's independence from foreign domination. However, the succeeding generations of the Medici family distanced themselves from the republican sympathies of the earlier generation and established more authoritarian rule. This transformation brought about stability in Florence and Tuscany, but it also marked a decline in the region's status as a cultural center. After the death of Ferdinand's son, Cosimo II, in 1720, Florence and Tuscany endured a period of ineffective Medici governance. The support provided by Cosimo II to notable figures like the mathematician, philosopher, and astronomer Galileo Galilei was no longer sustained. When Giangastone, the final Medici Grand Duke, passed away without a male heir in 1737, the family dynasty came to an end. By mutual agreement among the European powers, including Austria, France, England, and the Netherlands, control over Tuscany was transferred to Francis of Lorraine. His marriage to Habsburg heiress Maria Theresa of Austria, who would later become the mother of Maria Antoinette, marked the commencement of the extensive European reign of the Habsburg-Lorraine family. The Medici family's most remarkable achievements lay in their patronage of art and architecture, particularly during the early and high Renaissance. A significant portion of the major Florentine artworks created during their rule was made possible through their support. Artists typically initiated their projects upon securing commissions. Giovanni de' Bici de' Medici, the family's earliest art patron, assisted Masaccio and engaged Filippo Brunelleschi for the reconstruction of the Basilica of San Lorenzo in Florence in 1419. Cosimo the Elder, another prominent figure, supported artists like Donatello and Fra Angelico. In later years, the most illustrious protege of the Medici family was Michelangelo Buonarroti in 1475 to 1564, who produced artworks for several family members. Lorenzo the Magnificent, who had great affection for the young Michelangelo and offered him access to the family's collection of antique sculptures, was among his early patrons. Lorenzo also sponsored Leonardo da Vinci for 7 years. Lorenzo's own artistic talents and contributions to poetry and song are seen as a high point in Medici patronage of the arts and letters. Originating from their humble beginnings as relatively unknown farmers and traders, the Medici family eventually rose to prominence, producing 4 popes and a Queen of France, Catherine de' Medici, along with humanist statesmen such as Lorenzo. In many ways, the achievements of the Medici family embody the ideals of the Renaissance. Defining the Renaissance is a challenging task, as it held different meanings at different times and places. However, the Medici family effectively bridged these differences through their extensive tenure as public figures. Their significance in the history of art and their active involvement in state affairs underscore their role in shaping the Renaissance. But they didn't just end in art. The Medici family's financial acumen led them to pioneer several practices that have since become commonplace in the banking industry. In a bid to facilitate and promote international trade, the Medici bankers introduced the concept of the letter of credit. This document eliminated the need to transport large sums of money from one city to another. To engage in a transaction, a buyer would deposit their funds at their local Medici bank and receive a letter of credit to provide to the seller. The seller would then present this document to their local Medici bank to receive payment. Concurrently, the Medici bank would exchange the received florins, Florence currency, for a profit, often at a 4% markup. This practice enabled the bank to generate interest income for holding the money, without openly imposing interest, which was considered sinful by the church. The Medici family is also credited with inventing the double-entry bookkeeping system. This system offered a more precise method for tracking their income and expenditures while reducing accounting errors. The practice was widely adopted by banks and business people and remains a fundamental concept in the financial world. But it doesn't stop there. The Medici family also introduced the concept of a holding company. This innovative model is still in use today. Each branch of the Medici Bank was established through a partnership, with the Florence Bank serving as the central holding company. This structure allowed the Medici Bank to handle letters of credit, manage deposits, process bills of exchange, and issue loans. It also facilitated the expansion of Medici Bank branches into various countries, including the UK and Spain. In 2019, Prince Lorenzo de' Medici rekindled the family's presence in the banking industry by launching a digital-only bank, adhering to the Medici tradition of innovation. Collaborating with former American Express and online Fidor Bank executive Ed Boyle, who now serves as the CEO of Medici Bank, the family embarked on this modern banking venture. Would this be the rise of the House of Medici in modern times? While we wait for time to provide an answer, click on the next video on your screen for a more fascinating experience. Do click on the next video on your screen to watch another astounding video like this one.